information, you've produced a video, you've produced a blog post, and you've produced a social media post all in one, right there. See, that's being productively generous. Something that you can actually contribute out there. It's useful for someone else. It's productive. It's not the doom and gloom package that everybody's getting, and they can actually consume it and actually make their lives more productive too. I want to jump in on a conversation between Seth Godin and Brian Koppelman. And Brian Koppelman has his own podcast, The Moment, and he's also the writer for the Showtime hit Billions, and also, which I've said before, he wrote the show, one of my favorite shows, our movies, Rounders. So I want to jump in on one of their conversations and pull on the thread of thought, and it's about putting pressure. It's right around the 13-minute mark. It's about putting pressure in a PG kind of way, a productively generous kind of way. So let's roll the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, I'm setting myself up to feel like a failure at the end of each day if I make that demand on myself. So how do you balance this idea of what we should try to accomplish, what we can accomplish, and managing the way we feel about ourselves?
Well, you said something a few times in previous episodes about fuel and fuel that burns clean or not. So I want to talk about that in the sense of resilience and also in the sense of leadership. So I was really lucky. I was in the right place at the right time during the internet boom, and I know a whole bunch of people who hit an internet jackpot as entrepreneurs, as people who were adjacent to entrepreneurs. And then the question is, what do you do after that? And some of them signed up for bigger swings of the bat. They signed up to take bigger risks. They figured out how to put everything on the line, whether it was in real estate or another company or whatever it was. Because without that feeling that it was all on the line, they didn't feel alive. And other people said, I don't have to play a game where if I lose the game, I'm out. I could play a game using the resources I have where I get to keep playing a game. And the question is, in that instance, where is your fuel coming from? What is driving you forward? So if you think about a doctor in the emergency room, and my heart goes out to all of these medical professionals who are putting themselves through the ringer. This is what they signed up for a long time ago. They don't wish for it to happen, but they are ready for it to happen.
Yes.
How many patients should you help today? Well, if your model is, I will help every patient until I am unconscious, then tomorrow we're all going to lose. Because you're going to have to figure out how to be able to pace yourself to do the work you set out to do. Now, this is different than not putting yourself under pressure, because it feels to me like right now, in a moment of pessimism and disarray, putting ourselves under pressure to be more productively generous is exactly what we need to do. To say, well, yeah, I could reward myself with the treat of watching 2 hours of old TV tonight or something, or I could spend 2 hours tutoring a kid in East Harlem in Zoom. Which should I do? Well, that contribution is going to get you out of your head. And getting out of your own head because you made something better for somebody else, what a treat, what an opportunity to be able to move things forward. Now, some people aren't emotionally wired to be connecting to strangers, to be showing up in that way. Fine, go learn something new. Instead of watching old Seinfeld episodes on YouTube, go watch something on YouTube about things you have no idea about and learn something. Learn some empathy, learn some technology, learn how to install something and make it work on your computer. All of these things are available to us because we're on spring break and we're healthy, right? The people who are fighting for their lives, they have the best excuse. But for the rest of us, the question is, what pressure will we put ourselves under that is useful fuel to get us to the person we want to be?
I think this clip speaks to me in two different kind of ways. In one way, it's putting yourself under pressure, but the pressure has to be something more of a clean fuel, of a clean burn. Because I've been productive at times, but see, I burned the fuel. I burned it in the wrong kind of way. And so what I mean by that is because there was always more to be done. There was always something else I needed to do. And so I didn't get around to, maybe I wrote and recorded the podcast, but I didn't get around to taking the podcast and writing a blog post. Or maybe I wrote and recorded the podcast, but then I didn't do a video, or I wish I would have said this on the video. And I find myself that I get agitated because I burned it in the fuel in a wrong kind of way. So when I walk away from it, there was always more that I could have been done. And it's just a never-ending cycle. But then I've had it on the other side too, where I've done more and more, I had a whole lot more time, so I did more and more and more and more. But then I look up and I'm frustrated too, because I'm like, oh my God, the day is gone, man. I didn't really spend time with the family today. I didn't take some emotional breaks for myself and watch a movie. I didn't do any of that. So then I get frustrated. So, it's a constant back and forth, man. And I like what they're talking about, or what Seth is talking about, is making sure that when you do it in a productively generous kind of way, that you're burning a fuel in a positive kind of way. See, that clean burn is where you're actually being productively generous. So where I could recalibrate and say, well, okay, you didn't get it all done today, but were you productively generous? What's the most important thing is, number one, expressing my creativity every day. That's one of my values. That's number 5 on my value chart. I have 7 values that I chase every day that keeps me centered. So number 5 is expressing my creativity every day. Did you do that? Did you contribute in some sort of productive kind of way? You wrote the podcast. Maybe you didn't get it recorded, but did you write it? Maybe something came up and I didn't get completely 360, all right? So, or maybe I recorded it, but I didn't do the video. Or maybe I wrote it, I recorded, I did the video, and in that specified that specified time, did you do it? Were you productively generous? And then you walk away from it for a little while. And you come back to it. Maybe have some time after you spend some time, not only with yourself, with your health, with loved ones. And then if you have some time later on in the day, then you come back around to it. But if you didn't, then you pick it back up the following day. Every single day, man, I have to express my creativity. This is as important for me as running. I have to run every day. I have to bust a sweat every day. I say running, but sometimes it's just exercising. So it's something every single day. If I don't, man, I'm incredibly agitated. So Vera tells me, she says, look, go do what you got to do and then come back. See, it's that reminder of being productively generous, and then you fire it up the next day. And I find that my creativity is better for me in the early in the mornings than later on the day. I find many times I'm mentally whipped due to the emotional pull that sales has on you. By the end of the day, man, I'm whipped. And so no mas. So my time, and you have to calibrate on your time. My time is to get it done early in the day. The podcast, it's productively generous. So I can share something, I can produce something generously, put it out there. And then hopefully not only does it help me, but it helps someone else as well. So that's a reminder for those who are already producing content, because it's never enough, man. There's never enough hours in the day. You're never going to get it all done, because many times, man, we want to go from point C to point Z, man. We want our producing our content, we want it to go 20, 30, 40x, and it's just not going to happen that way. So giving 12 hours a day to it and shelving your entire life, that's not going to work. So how can you prioritize those things? Some days, man, you may have an hour or 2. Some days you may have 5 hours. Other days, man, you may have 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is, man, were you productively generous? That's a clean burn, and then you walk away from it. That was something that when I heard this, man, it helped me to be able to just walk away from it and say, okay, you did something today. Because I can't tell you how many times I've rolled into work pissed off, and not even pissed off about anything that's really valid. It's pissed off because I wish I had more time to do more content. Wish I had more time to read. And that's not what it's all about. You drop the pen, you turn off the phone, the video, and you walk away from it. So that's for those. I want to remind you, if you're already producing content, man, that it's productively generous. Make sure it's a clean burn. Okay, so enough about that. But for those who are not being productively generous, who are not in a PG rating, man, like Seth said, you're healthy and you have no excuse. The unhealthy people out there right now, the times that we're facing, they have an excuse. What's your excuse? You don't have an excuse. And I love the analogy, what Seth said, man, is we're all on spring break here. So what are you going to do with your spring break? Are you going to work? Or are you going to wait? Are you waiting for the all clear sign? See, right now, man, you have the opportunity to be productively generous. And so instead of just binge watching on everything, then you actually produce something. Then you can, it's a yin and yang, man. Then you can go do something else, but be productively generous first. Many of you who listen to The Sales Life, you're already contributors. So your professors, your teachers, your salespeople, man, your realtors, your I think I already said that, salespeople, but you're already producing, man. So now take your producing skills and start creating more, being productively generous, give out. Because even if your store is closed right now, man, you could be productively generous because you can take a picture with your, so if your store is closed and you don't have the products in your house, you could take a screenshot of it. You could drop that picture into your iMovie, and then you could talk over that, voiceover with that picture, talking about that certain product. You don't have to have the product in your house. There's too many ways that you can get the information. And then when you do that, man, not only have you've produced podcast information, you've produced a video, you've produced a blog post, and you've produced a social media post all in one, right there. See, that's being productively generous. Something where somebody it triggers other people, man. Something that you can actually contribute out there. It's useful for someone else. It's productive. It's not the doom and gloom package that everybody's getting, and they can actually consume it and actually make their lives more productive too. See, when you can produce something, you're going to feel better about it. You're going to feel better because you're actually sharing. You're sharing something of value. While you share something of value, because you just taught it, that makes you be able to hone your skills, and it spawns more creativity, man. When you can be creative putting something out there, it's gonna spawn even more creative. The reason why you say you're not creative is because you're not doing anything creative. If you do some small things creative, you just, as blah as it may seem, I'm telling you, dude, you're gonna get more and more colorful ideas. So, and even, dude, if you're not Mr. Video, man, you could take that content, you could record it into your phone and then make a blog post out of it. Or you can make a podcast out of it. You could flip open the Anchor app. It's 100% free. Call your show whatever you want it to call. You talk on the phone as if you're talking to someone else. Record a podcast, get the content up. So you don't have to be Mr. Video. But the point is, man, being productively generous. See, it's all those kind of different things rolled up into one. Now, here's the other thing too. If you don't do any of this, there's another way that you can be productively generous. Being productively generous is finding a new skill. Someone is teaching a new skill on, say, YouTube. You take that skill or you learn that skill. So you're being productively generous by consuming their skill for the purpose of developing a new skill. So they planted the seed into you sprout that seed, and now you've got a tree of new skills. And then the skills that you just acquired, guess what? As you learn it, man, you get to teach it. And then you plant new seeds. So what sounds like being productively generous, where you're a consumer, it's consuming in a productively generous kind of way. So you're taking in the content for the purpose of developing a new skill and technique, and then you're honing your skills. You're putting more into your war chest, and then as you do that, your obligation then is to share those skills with other people too. So we're in a PG rating, man. No more R. The R rating, man, is raking it all in. That's the greed part. Let's rake it all in. It's all for me, 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 me. This is a productively generous time right now. You're in a PG time. So be productively generous in all sorts of platforms and get rocking. All right? Remember, never settle. Keep selling your way through life, no matter what. Have an amazing day. Be generous, productively. Stay in the sales life.